Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fiction genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Beyond. Another great episode, a lot of interesting things that kind of came up in this episode, so let's kind of break things down, kind of discuss what went down. First off, you have Holden taking Charlie to the fridge, which is kind of interesting because we don't get it, the conversation all the way, but like he tells her basically everything that's happened subsequently since they left. I'm sure he didn't go into all the details, but I mean, it seems like I would assume he just told her everything, but because she brings up, she's like, oh yeah, the bridge that you've destroyed and everything. But what's kind of serious, what I found very interesting is when Charlie touched the lock, it didn't do anything, but the moment Holden touched it again, he saw the visions and everything. So the question is it because it's specifically meant for Holden to see those visions, whatever's connected to that? I mean, it's connected to Edgar, who's connected to Holden. But the thing is, I'm wondering, does it deal with the fact is it because, Charlie wasn't in the realm as long as Holden was? Like, she was only in there for like 4 years. Holden was in there for 12. So maybe he has a deeper connection to the realm, hence why it's going after him. Maybe it has something to do with his abilities. Because let's remember, like, Holden's abilities are connected to the elements. So maybe that part has a part to play in it, Like I said, because, like, it seems like Edgar has some connection to all of this, but it seems like Charlie's kind of out in the dark about this whole situation, which is like, you would think she wouldn't be, because that's why it's kind of bringing up. It's like, she didn't have the visions, only Holden did. So I guess that also brings why there's a connection between him and Diego. It's because there's such a tight connection between him and the realm, and Diego being whatever it is inside of him, whatever those creatures are, they have a connection to the realm. So, plus also the fact is that he is from the elements. They are, because it does describe itself as like, oh, I am fire. Well, Holden can control fire. I mean, that's more of a metaphorical sense. I mean, maybe in the sense it is kind of literal as well. So, I don't know, but it was just kind of an interesting development. So I mean, it makes me wonder, could Edgar touch it and do something? Because like I said, everyone has their own particular ability. Edgar seems like his is like fire in particular. It seems like he can manipulate elements, whether it's all elements or just particular fire, we haven't really seen yet, but so far it seems like heat's kind of his thing. Especially when you, like, that dude, Nikki, is messing with him, kind of being a douchebag. It's like, oh, you got your sweets or treat privileges taken away. He's like, oh, I'm eating this chocolate ice cream. I got chocolate because I know it's your favorite. Kind of being a douchebag, and you have Edgar melting it with his powers, and it's just like he melted it, and the lady's just kind of ignoring him. I was like, okay, yeah, he melted your ice cream with it, blah 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 blah, and kind of ignoring him. So that was just kind of interesting to me. It's like you kind of deserve it for being a douchebag. So that was kind of interesting. But nevertheless, we did kind of learn a lot more about Charlie in this particular episode, about quite a few things. Obviously, she's not wanting to tell Holden the real reason why she came back to Fort Reed and everything. But does open up a little bit about her mom. I like the fact that she makes the comparison. She's like, the realm is your Jewish mom, because her brought up the whole conversation about her mom being Jewish. And the fact of the matter is, like, her mom believes things or just will kind of do anything, take anything upon herself until it's Charlie's fault. Then it's like everything that's happened is because of you. You're doing this just to hurt, like that type, like mother guilt. And it's basically, she's saying, like, everything you're doing is because of your guilt about everything. So, like, basically stop feeling guilty. Just kind of breathe, use those abilities of yours to have a little fun. So that was just kind of an interesting conversation. We did also learn that her mom actually super big gambler, in particular when it came to bowling and everything. That was kind of sad. I mean, it's actually kind of interesting too, because like for her, it's like when it comes to her and Holden, like Holden has opposite memories, because he's like, oh, that bowling alley there. It's like, yeah, as a kid, he used to make excuses all the time about, so he wouldn't have to go there because he was too embarrassed. But for Charlie, she kind of has bad memories about it, but she still likes to place because it reminds her of her mom. So that was kind of a bittersweet thing to it, And all the while you have Luke and Willa hanging out, because Willa ends up finding out, like, from everybody, like, except for Holden, like, wait, what? There's more to this. It isn't just in Holden's head, because, like, she finds out about the fridge and Edgar, all that from Jeff. because he was like, oh, this whole Edgar thing we better avoid because it probably has connections to Hollow Sky. She's like, what Edgar thing? I'm like, oh, Holden didn't tell you, did he? He didn't tell her anything, and it kind of upsets her because it's like he went to Jeff and Luke, and it's like, I'm the one that's supposed to be with you in on this, and you left me out. For her, it's just like she only told Holden like not to worry about it because she was trying to, you know, be a good girlfriend. She just wanted him to not feel so stressed out about it. Like, because both of them are keeping things. Because let's not forget what Luke told him last episode. It's like, you know, you have Willa being worried about the whole like situation with her dad, her mom potentially being stuff, you know, and Arthur, like all those worries. Like Luke, you know, it's a person she's confided in. And it's just kind of sad because it's like, well, they haven't been confiding with each other, but rather other people, you know. So especially when Luke found out what Willa did, he assumed like, oh, Willa paid him off, and it's like, don't worry, I'm gonna pay you back for paying off Jay. But then he sees her knuckles later, and it's like, oh wait, you weren't kidding about basically kicking Jay's ass. And it's like, he's like, I didn't ask you to do it. And she's like, you know, that's why I did it for you, because you wouldn't ask me to do it. So that's, which is like, oh. And then he had that moment of like, he's trying to teach her how to play on the arcade stick, and he touches her hand. I'm like, dude, especially we have this moment, you have Holden with Charlie. But I love that awkward moment where Luke steps out, and I'm like, oh my God, the bowling alley and the arcade are connected. I was like, that was a good awkward touch. So you have Holden and Charlie standing there, and then there's Luke and Willa, and it's just this super big awkward mess, and I loved it. And it's just kind of like, and they're just standing around like, yeah. Even at one point, Charlie's like, well, you don't have to worry about anything between me and Holden. We're just good friends. And she's like, why would I think? And Willow's like, why would I think otherwise? She's like, you wouldn't, would you? And so it's just kind of back and forth. Holden tells Luke about the whole like Charlie sleeping in his bed. It's like, oh, you slept together? It's like, no, it was more platonic. It's like, I wouldn't go with that phrasing. I was like, well, how would you explain you and Willa being here together? It's like, well, I was here for her, kind of basically throwing it in Holden's face. Like, while you were off hanging with Charlie, I was there for her. She was there waiting for you to get back so you can talk about everything. And it just, like I said, the whole situation is very bittersweet, because there's the part that's like, oh man, it sucks that things are playing out like this, just because it's like everyone's kind of in the wrong to a certain extent, because not everyone's talking. Like Holden kind of blames her a little bit, because it's like, you know, I told you what was going on, but you told me it was all in my mind. You kind of made me feel a little crazy. You know, the fact is, I believed it. That should have been enough to make you believe, you know? But at the same time, it's like, Willa's like, I told you that because I wanted you to have a normal life. All you've ever wanted was a normal life. And for her, it's like, you can't accept me as me. You can't accept me as the fake me. Like, where do I stand in this whole situation, you know? And then it turns into that whole big, huge argument, because it's like, Luke is there backing up, you know, Willa in the whole conversation in the debate, and then Charlie's jumping in to defend Holden. It's like, you don't know what he's been through. Like, you're all trying, like, that Holden has to fit this being this person that everyone wants him to be. He was like in a coma for 12 years, and you can't, like, there's a little truth going around about every little thing. Like, everyone's right in this situation, and it's just like, because the fact of the matter, it's like, you can tell Holden's just frustrated, because it's just like, he wants that. He wants a normal life. It might sound annoying and it might sound idiotic to other people, but it's like, when you're not in that situation for so long, when basically your entire life has passed you by, like, you didn't get to live a lot of your life. It's just gone. 12 years are gone like that, and then like you wake up and everything's different. I mean, the fact of the matter is, and that's also I think a good thing that they did with the time situation, that it's only been like 2 months since season 1's finale, so it adds that element of like, it's still a fresh wound. That's why it's still bothering Holden, to, you know, the extent Luke would be like, oh, you're still whining about it. But like I said, there's fault all around. Sadly, Willa kind of pieces it together. It's like, oh yeah, it wasn't your first time, huh? It's like, well, you should have told me the truth. That would have been a normal thing to do. So, like I said, it sucks, but at the same time, I'm like, this means I might get the pairings that I want. I'm like, come on, Luke and Willa are just right there. You have Charlie and Holden. It's like, come on. It's literally set up for that. And most likely what will probably happen is that Holden and her will kind of fix things, but I think what makes things between Holden and Charlie easier is because they don't have that past. Because I think on some, you know, because Willa in her head had the thought that like, oh, the moment they got back to this world, everything would fit together. But it's like, you didn't add in the fact of Holden not remembering things from when he was in his coma, when he was in the realm, plus the whole aspect of like wanting that normal life, those are elements that kind of shaped and changed Holden to in a way I think Willow wasn't really expecting, because she thought that they could pick up where they left off, but it's like being back, they are not the same people they were. Like I said, I brought up multiple times before, it's different circumstances under which they met. Him and Charlie, yes, it was kind of a forced situation, but still they kind of met under semi-normal circumstances. Plus Charlie kind of knows what he's going through. She's got abilities too. She knows the realm as well, which Willa does too, but I think for Holden, he finds it actually easier to talk to Charlie, whether he admit it or not. Because like I said, I want them to be more than friends. So I know, just kind of interesting thing. I figured I should add this because I found this out like last week. Turns out the actress who plays Charlie, her name's Eden Brolin, freaking one of Josh Brolin's kids, dude. I was like, what? I was like, that's crazy. Not only is your dad like a big time actor and everything, also like, the nerdy side of me is like, yo, let's not forget he's Thanos in the Marvel movies, and he's also Cable in Deadpool. Like, that's sick. Just something I just couldn't help. I was like, oh, that's so cool. But nevertheless, so now it kind of sucks because everyone's pissed, especially because now like Holden kind of pieced it together. It's like, oh wow, you came here to kill Arthur. And she's like, yeah, I had the gun pointed at him, but then I was thinking to myself, oh, I'm a better person than them. It's like, well, maybe they don't deserve a second chance, essentially, because the way Willow was talking to Holden, Charlie didn't like that, because for her, it probably made her remind her a lot of probably how Arthur talked to her and maybe treated other people. It's like, you don't understand people. Like, you kind of have this high and mighty, like, air about you, but it's like you don't understand people, the situation. It's like, because it probably in Charlie's mind also, because like you see like, yep, it's on, it's like you could like a lot of her like distaste for Willa stems from the fact that she really doesn't like Arthur, but I think it's just because it's like, oh, like grandfather like granddaughter. I think that's the kind of mentality Charlie has. For her, it's like, because we still don't know what Arthur did to her, and I'm curious to find out what will Willa do when will she bring this up to Arthur, because Holden kind of makes it go like, well, I told Charlie about her, not realizing, because Charlie didn't Holden found out afterwards talking to her, but didn't know at the time Charlie already knew about Arthur before he even mentioned him to her. So it's not like he told it to a complete stranger. Like, she was already aware of it. Like I said, at the time, Holden didn't know. So like I said, it just kind of sucks. It's one of those moments you just go, but then there's a part of my brain that's like, I'm super messed up, because I'm like, yes, this means I can get the pairings that I want. It's just, I can't help it. Like, once you have it set in your mind, you want certain people to be together. It's like, I want you to be together. Don't be with anybody else. So I want Holden and Charlie to be together, and then Luke and Willa. It's like the story, it's already pushing it. Just let it happen. Just let it happen. I am curious to see what will Charlie do, because this might ignite the fire in her to still go after Arthur. But after kind of crossing paths with Holden again, she might be even more reluctant to do it. Maybe meeting Willa makes her even more sure about doing it. I don't know. We'll just kind of have to wait and see on that. But took me, like, I like how they did the episode though, where it's like, oh, you start off with the shot at the bowling alley. I thought the twist was going to be like, no, they're already going because there was no one else in the bowling alley. I was like, okay, what's going to happen is like, they're going to leave. Holden left his ID or whatever. And then it's like, everyone had already gone, and the guy that was, running the place, I was like, he's going to end up dying because Diego comes to him looking for Holden. It's like, oh, you're my way, I kill you. Like, I figured that was that type of thing. It turned around when I saw that Holden was the only one there. I was like, oh. And then he just suddenly attacks Holden out of nowhere. I was like, holy crap. It wasn't even a conversation. It's just, well, the fact of the matter is he made it perfectly clear last episode. He wants to kill Holden. But it turns into a little brawl. But what took me by surprise too is like how durable this sucker is. Took a bowling ball, kind of got pushed around, like Holden used his powers to throw him through a window, but he gets up like it's not. To be fair, he came and walked away from a crash like it was nothing. He pulled the glass out of him, so it's just kind of like, it isn't, whatever's in him isn't bound by normal human pain. I wonder, can it rapidly heal? I mean, I don't know, because it doesn't seem like it was slowed down, so it must have healed its wounds already. And the fact is that it got up so quickly means that it probably healed from that pretty quickly too. So I think that was a very nice way to end off the episode with just them running towards each other like, yo, we about to duke it out. Because Holden hasn't had like a full-on battle even in the entire series. It's just kind of been like him using his powers against normal people. This is his first time going up against someone that can actually kind of take his powers. And even at this point, let's not forget, Holden has been practicing with his powers, but he hasn't fully awakened them. So sadly, he's here on his own. Things probably aren't going to look that good because his ID's there. There's a dead body there. And it's just... Also, really quickly, just kind of a side note, it is kind of interesting because Luke is like, oh, you're one of those car flippers. And Charlie's like, nope, I'm just very good at bowling. So kind of hiding the fact is of what she can do. I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. I also like that comment she was making about Luke's job. She's like, oh, is it really worth the extra $5 that they do it a certain way or something like that? She kind of blow it up. And even Luke's like, yeah, she's over there having like some global conspiracy theory about, you know, that making drinks like that and stuff like that. It was just kind of a nice touch. Overall, very interesting and good way to kind of end that off. Also, a big storyline development was about Diane. Ended up finding out that Ian's had cameras in her house, which is like, ooh, didn't see that coming. Which is kind of interesting because that begs, which side note begs the question, that means Ian probably has known for a while a lot more than Diane has really told him about like I don't know, like from the time, like so far in the show, Tom hasn't really popped up. He's been staying at his own place. So I don't think that's really been something that's come up yet. And so it does seem like this episode does confirm what I thought, that they were, in fact, in this together just to kind of fit the narrative of like, oh yeah, like him and Diane aren't working things out. Then it's like he doesn't stick. Like I thought so, but I just wasn't 100% sure because we hadn't seen him in a couple episodes. But it's also probably because that the actor who plays Tom has been doing other stuff too. Like Frank on Ray Donovan. His story played out the way it did this season. So I don't want to spoil that. And also he was in like some like 2 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So far this season, so that I'm sure that kind of plays a role in that too. But nevertheless, the question that pops up though is how long were those cameras in there? Have they been in there the entire time Holden was in his coma? Like, did they know from like at what point did Frost and them take an interest in Holden? Like, I don't think they ever really pointed out why. Well, no, because I feel like it wasn't until Holden woke up that they took an interest in it, because it's like, oh yeah, because of it took everything else, like, oh, the fact in them. Well, no, because they kind of can't. Well, I guess it's a situation of like the whole Hollow Sky Helping Hand situation. It's like, oh, we draw people in. It's like, oh, we go to people who are kind of in need of guidance. So it's like, you know, Ian kind of came to like Diane, but I guess it's a situation of like, oh, it just turned out that Holden is the key to everything. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's how it worked. Maybe it was only after Holden woke up that they were like, oh, he's special. We might as well keep an eye on the family. Because I was like, why would they do that otherwise? Like I said, because it didn't seem like that they've always known about Holden. It seemed like it wasn't until he woke up and being in the condition that he was in. Oh, to be fair, I forgot. Yellow Jacket was there to test him, to make sure that he was the person they needed him to be, just because of his condition and everything. I guess because that kind of cemented it in their minds. Like, oh yeah, he's special, whatever. But nevertheless. But either way, that means I get the feeling those cameras have been in there for a while, so they've caught a lot of stuff that's kind of going down in the Matthews place. Tom got super pissed because for Diane, it's like, this is my home, like my children, their safety. I'm supposed to know that I'm supposed to protect them as their mom, and I failed because they like our home has been defiled, has been, you know, we've been spied on, and it's like she feels like she's failed, and Tom is like, I'm gonna get your home back. And so he goes to visit Ian, but Ian knows exactly what buttons to push, which kind of brought me what I was trying to bring up earlier. Is like those cameras have probably been there a while, so he knows probably about the FBI investigation, knows that Diane and Tom, you know, I don't know whether it's that or whether it's a situation of trying to get Tom out of picture, because Tom he kind of lied about everything. He's like, oh yeah, Diane asked me to fix some electrics around the house, and I stumbled across the camera. And then he says he asked Luke and Holden, and they were like, I don't know about it. And the neighbors, which we know he didn't, because Diane's the one that brought it to him. But this also keeps Diane's cover, so it just makes it seem, you know, I'm sure Ian's going to try and twist it as being like, oh, Tom's just some jealous lover. I mean, to be fair, he took no action when Jeff did it, but you know, he intentionally did all that because, you know, he's trying to remove Tom from the equation, not unless it's because he's trying to get closer to Diane, or it's just because, you know, just to kind of screw Diane over a little bit because he knows that she's lying to him, because you could tell he's suspicious. But I mean, we'll just have to wait because he really messed Ian up. So that's going to come back to bite Tom in the ass next episode. I'm curious to see what happens. Whether Holden's there when he most likely gets arrested. I mean, to be fair, the sheriff is in on this investigation and stuff like that, but he still has to do his job as to keep up appearances. So Tom will most likely get locked up for this. And also at the same time, we have Jeff trying to meet up with Edgar the next episode because he found out about Edgar saying a name over and over again, Holden Matthews. So that's definitely going to be very interesting as we see that all kind of progress. I'm curious what's inside that fridge and like who is that person from Holden's visions? What is that place he went to? So many questions. We'll have to wait to get the answers for them. Sadly, there will not be an episode next week, which really sucks. Like I said, especially how the episode ended with Diego versus Holden. That's fair. Oh, dude. But there will be an episode the week after next, so do remember that March 1st, if you needed a date. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good.